Well, good morning and welcome everybody. I will continue to watch the Zoom room and let anybody else in that joins us. We did have quite a few more people that were registered, so hopefully people are just running a little behind schedule this morning, which is not a problem. So we'll get started just to be mindful of everyone's time. Want to say welcome. I know all of the names and faces on the screen, and you guys all know me, and you've seen my face all over Zoom since pretty much March of last year. So and some of you I've even gotten to see in person. So just want to welcome you all and certainly thank you for taking the time to listen to Ryan Jenkins, who is the treasurer for Pickerington Local Schools, and just sharing a little bit about, well, a lot of it probably about the bond issue that is going to be on the ballot, and voting is May 4th. So in case you did not know that, there is, a voting day coming up on May 4th. And that is, Ryan, do you know if there's anything else on the ballot on May 4th? Because I have not looked, honestly.
Parks levy.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure the details, but I just know that there's a parks levy.
Okay. I was actually going to look that up today and share that with members because I will forget otherwise. So, but thank you. So we do want to, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. And as businesses and residents, quite a few of us on this call here in Pickerington, of course, we want to support our local schools, but we want to find out, what exactly that looks like, and certainly give them an opportunity to share with us why it's so important to get this bond issue passed. So Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can certainly take it away.
All right, I'm going to share my screen now. So you should see a presentation that starts off with a bar graph and talks about projected enrollment. Yep. So as Teresa noted, the schools want to always be considered a valuable partner with local businesses. We believe strongly, and we have data to substantiate it right now, that the city of Pickerington is doing some long-range planning for strategically how to use areas of the city. The survey that they put out that talks about what brings people to Pickerington, and this is not to try to brag or put a feather in our own cap, but those surveys routinely note that one of the strongest reasons, if not the strongest reason, that people choose Pickerington are the schools. So we're pleased to be a partner, but that is a large responsibility that we have to take seriously. And so that's why we're here today. We know that right now, over the next 10 years, we are going to grow. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how much. If you drive around the community right now, it's very, very clear and obvious that we have, as you'll see in another slide, anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 homes that are platted and will eventually have a home on them. And we're going to find out why that's important, because ultimately we know in Pickerington, if we get a new home, we typically get a new student. So the bar graph shows that by the middle of the decade, we'll be approaching 12,000 students. And by the end of the decade, we could actually blow past 12 grand and be headed towards 13,000. This is from November of 19. Believe it or not, we've been doing this for about 2 years, the planning, the implementation. We attempted in November of 2020 to pass the levy. We didn't get beat terribly. We did get beat by a couple thousand votes with historic voter turnout of 80%. We actually had 13,500 yes votes. In any other election that would have worked, we just had 80% of our residents turn out, and unfortunately we had about 15,500 no's. It was a 50 to 44 margin. That doesn't add up to 100. That's because we had about a 6% undervote. Unfortunately, not everybody who shows up scans all the way down the ballot, and we had a couple thousand people who didn't even vote on the issue. 10,600 students, give or take, in November of 19, 233 preschool students. So our total head count in the district was just a shade under 10,830. But we have another 134 students at the Eastland Fairfield Career Center that aren't in these numbers. So ultimately, what's going on that makes us believe that it's not when or if, it's by how much? This slide shows on the left-hand side our district boundaries. In the lighter shades of beige, you have single-family subdivision developments. In the red, you have multifamily. In the chart on the right, you have the total number of units that are coming into those neighborhoods when that neighborhood is fully mature. Some neighborhoods are pretty close to mature. For example, Preston Trails. Preston Trails only has about 30 to 35 plats that are still being developed. It's mostly mature. Okay, Lake Forest right above it went up quick right by Tollgate, but most of those 171 are done. But believe it or not, there's actually some subdivisions that aren't on this list. And then there's others that are still very, very immature as far as for growth. They're already starting Lake Forest 2, which is the subdivision as you head up Milner Road, which is kind of off to your right on the backside of Lake Forest. Others, like the reserves at Meadowmore, you'll see there's 193 plats. There's only about 25 or 30 homes. That's at the intersection of Alton 204. Only 25 or 30 of those are developed as we speak. Willard Preserve, that's as you go out Long Road towards Gender. If you look over to your right, you'll see a 160 home subdivision. There's only about 10 or 12 homes in there in various states of completion. Spring Grove, that's behind the maintenance building on Steeman Road at the top of the hill on Center Street. When you put this all together, we have about 1,000 to 2,000 plats that will have a home on them. That is critical for the following reason. All of our housing stock in Pickerington has been inventoried by the district in our study, where we know 2 or 3 factors. Every home in the district, we know pretty much its age. We also know the student yield. What this graph is showing, whether you use a 3-year average or a 5-year average, a home that's between 1 and 6 years of age is going to have a student yield of around 1 student per home. The perfect example, the poster child, so to speak, is my neighborhood. I live in Sagamore Pond. You go out Steeman Road, go past Sailor, just before you get to the S-curve and into Liberty Township. Sagamore Pond has 31 homes. The 31st home would have been completed in the summer of 2014. So the neighborhood's about 7 years old. Of the 31 homes in Sagamore Pond, we have 33 students. This data is on our website. You can actually find every neighborhood in Pickerington. You can find for every neighborhood how many homes are in the neighborhood, and then how many students are in that neighborhood K4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 12, and the associated densities. We know if a new home comes to Pickerington, within the first 1 to 6 years, we're going to have a student in that home. So that's why that previous slide, when we say we have 1,200 to 2,000 plats, we know that means we're getting 1,200 to 2,000 new students. So what are we doing to address it? We're building a new junior high if the bond issue passes. We're going to add significant additions to Central and North. We're going to renovate what is currently Ridgeview Junior High into a K-6 elementary middle school combo. That would be 2 separate schools under one roof kind of concept like Tollgate. We'd have a K4 elementary, a 5-6 middle. We would also move the Gateway Gifted Academy there from Tollgate. We're going to renovate Heritage Elementary into a preschool learning center. And then finally, the Welcome Center would come, our Welcome or Enrollment Center would come to the district office complex. So let's take a little deeper dive. But the first thing we want to know is, what is it about this plan that's good? Well, you can see in all areas, we have to address student population growth. High school, junior high, middle school to elementary. We're wasting our time if we don't believe we have a plan that adequately addresses growth for the next 7 to 10 years. We believe that we do. Usually people ask the question, well, what happens if you just keep right on growing like a Nolan-Tangi or a Dublin? Well, we get to do this again. But at least for now, we believe that we check that box. We're going to have a secondary campus on both sides of the district. North has the Lakeview North Complex. We'll have, obviously, on the central side, the new junior high central complex. That allows us to have better sharing of staff and facilities. It keeps us away from a third high school. We have a lot of people in the community that do not believe we're ready for a third high school. That's actually a good thing. A third high school the size of Central and North alone would be about a $130 million proposition. You're going to see that all the work we're doing here is under 100 million all by itself. New modern high schools the size of North or Central are easily $120 million, and it wouldn't even address everything that we need. Our high schools are secure, but we're going to make them more secure. We're going to secure the vestibules. We'll show what that looks like. Equal number of full-size classrooms. Both Central and North would have 95 classrooms when the plan is done. Again, Ridgeview becomes that combined 2 buildings under 1 roof, K6. That's going to help us with our feeder pattern. The reason that's the case is the Heritage Elementary that currently exists will move to the Ridgeview and become the K4 elementary that's there and feed right into that 5-6 middle. That leaves 6 remaining elementary schools to be divided among Diley, Harmon, and Tollgate. 6 is far better divisible by 3 than 7 is. This will allow us to balance our feeder patterns a little bit better. We have a rare neighborhood or two where someone starts off, they go to either Sycamore or Pickerington, and they're a Tiger. But then they get switched to Tollgate, and they're with a lot of kids who end up being Panthers. Then they get switched back when they go to Ridgeview, back to being Tigers. We're aware of those neighborhoods where that occurs. We believe we can do a better job of balancing that. We don't know if we can get perfection, but we can certainly do better. We're going to have all kinds of space freed up at Tollgate by moving the Gateway program. There's about 6 classrooms dedicated there. Why is that important? Tollgate Middle School is the 3rd largest building in this district now. Beg your pardon, the Tollgate complex. We have North and Central. We all know those are high schools with 1,600 to 1,700 students each. The Tollgate buildings have about 1,500 students right now. Tollgate Elementary and Tollgate Middle are 2 big schools. Each one of them has about 700 to 750 students. This will provide us with space at that complex because right now, the Tollgate complex is pretty much at capacity, and yet there's no sign that there's a lot of homes going in, for example, up in that northern part of the district. Again, it's going to create space in all of our buildings for when we are able to relocate Tollgate and relocate the preschool, which is talked about down here in other areas. The preschool going to a renovated Heritage will allow for 24 classrooms there, and it's going to free up at least 4 classrooms at Violet, 5 at Tusing, and 6 at Sycamore that are currently devoted to preschool. That's how we get movement in the lower grades and create space at our elementaries. Again, some ancillary benefits. You ever try to go up or down a hill road at about 7:05 in the morning or 2:15 in the afternoon? Don't, because it is absolutely packed with arrival and dismissal. This will allow us to move. Obviously, the Ridgeview site becomes the new junior high, which is out on Lockville Road, allows for traffic congestion to be eased downtown. Same thing happens on East Street with Heritage when Heritage goes to what was Ridgeview. And finally, the Welcome Center coming to the district office would be helpful. A lot of people show up to the district office thinking that's where they enroll, only to find out they got to go over to Ridgeview. This is probably, and that's why it's on its own slide, one of the largest benefits. We also know if we pass the bond issue, we are entitled to $53 million in future funding from the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. This is huge. I'm not sure how much this was known last time. Ultimately, when we built the 2 toll gates in Sycamore back in 2007, we began a master plan process with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission of renovating and adding schools to our district to keep up with growth. So we built the 2 toll gates in Sycamore. When we did our local share, the state kicked in about 4 years later with $52 million. And that $52 million was not a burden on the local community. It came from the state. And that's how, if you all remember, back in around 2010, 11, and 12, we renovated Central High School. We renovated Ridgeview. We renovated Pickerington. We renovated Fairfield. And we renovated Violet. That was all money from the state, about $52 million. If we do this part, if we do our share on this part, the new junior high, the wings at Central and North, some of the work we're going to see, we get $53 million in future funding from the state to then address the only buildings that would not have been impacted by OFCC dollars, which is Diley, Harmon, Lakeview, Tusing. Critical, critical piece. It's almost like a buy one, get one. You know, we do our part, we get $53 million in future funding. So what are we doing? Let's take a look now, and I like to describe what we've done as being in 3 phases. Phase 3 requires the bond issue. If the bond issue doesn't pass, we're not able to carry out phase 3. We get questions, well, how did you do phase 1 and 2? We've been very strategic and deliberate with our capital dollars. We've budgeted, we've planned, And we've used our capital dollars for the projects that you're going to see so far that have been completed. Remember, phase 3 is about $85 million, and we don't have a spare $85 million just kind of laying around. That's why there's a bond issue on the ballot. This is Lockville Road, and this is Opportunity Way. Central High School sits right here. We have already at this 66-acre site graded and run utilities to what is formerly known as the McGill property. This site is build ready. If the bond issue passes, a new junior high would be positioned roughly in this location. The footprint here is Sycamore. It's not going to be a building like Sycamore. It's going to be closer to a Lakeview, about 1,100 students. We probably ought to change the footprint, but we get the idea, we get the concept that a full-blown junior high would fit on this property. And this property is ready to go. It's got utilities. It's been graded. We've done some other work in other phases that we'll look at here in just a minute. But this is where the future junior high would go should the bond issue pass. At Central, we would add 24 classrooms onto the southeast corner of the building. I believe right here, this is kind of like the social studies wing. If I got my memory served me correctly about the areas of the building there at Central, 24 classrooms. We would make this entryway for the public a secure vestibule. What we mean by secure vestibule, that's where you walk in, you're kind of held in a holding pattern until you're vetted by the office, and then you can enter. We would also expand our cafeteria by about 200 seats by going into the courtyard, probably 30 or 40 feet. At North, 18 classrooms off of the northwest side of the building, and a redesigned and secure vestibule. At Ridgeview, this shows the concept of 2 buildings under 1 roof, a K4 and a 5-6 with the Tollgate Elementary, or beg your pardon, with the Tollgate Gifted Academy coming here. It's technically called the Gateway Gifted Academy. Heritage is going to be neat. We're actually going to take the C building, and this becomes 24 preschool classrooms. More than enough room to grow our preschool if we need to, but also more importantly, it already frees the 14 or 15 buildings in our 14 or 15 classrooms around our elementaries that allows for then the growth in those buildings. The front of Heritage is known as the B wing. It's going to be renovated into PD and or office space for district use, and then the Welcome Center is located to this facility. The final thing that we did in phase 1 was we added some auxiliary fields in front of Lakeview Elementary. And we added some auxiliary fields here. You should recognize this. This is the McGill property. Now we're gonna, yeah, my lights go out. We're gonna look at some additional things that are going on in this area here and a couple of other slides. This has been a lot of excitement in the community. We've had a lot of questions, and I'm going to show this in just a minute and then answer any questions. But we have space for auxiliary fields here at what is currently the McGill property. Sorry, I should say we've put in these auxiliary fields. They're growing grass. We also have done a lot of work in phase 2. Again, dedicated capital resources, sound budgeting. We have added an 8-lane competition track. That was important because the competition track that is at the current Tiger Stadium is only 6 lanes. It is not Federation approved. So this has been something that has long been a request, that we have a facility technically for our central track that needed to be upgraded to current standards. The track is there. We have also brought in right here, these are visitors, grandstands and bleachers. There will be a press box here, but this is phase 2. And if the bond issue doesn't pass, ultimately, this would stay more of an auxiliary stadium with the track, an infield, and stands here. On this end, we've already got the shot put and discus. We've got the pole vault pit here. So this kind of gives a concept of where we can get to with current capital dollars. Again, sound and wise budgeting with our capital dollars. It's the next phase that, if the bond issue passes, allows us to do a few extracurricular projects. You've seen all the other projects we would do with a bond issue. The new junior high, renovating Ridgeview, renovating Heritage, wings at the high school. The final thing we can do should the bond issue pass is this would become a full-blown competition stadium at Central. You can see the junior high building would be sitting here at the front of the property. These fields would then be fully developed as auxiliary, and we would have a full-blown stadium. Remember earlier I called this the visitor's side? That's because in a full-blown stadium, this would be the home side. We would have multi-purpose facilities here for locker rooms / other use. You'd have to build obviously concessions, but this would become a full-blown stadium, and it is important to note with turf. One of the questions that continues to be asked in our community, we get so much utility out of turf. Most people think turf is cheaper. It's not. Most people think, that over time turf is easier to maintain. It's not. It's about the same as grass if you add up the cost. What is the advantage to turf? Utility. We will get about twice to 2.5 times the usage out of our fields that we get currently with grass, because when you have 2 or 3 rainy spring days in a row, you simply can't have as much on the field. It can't handle it. It ruins the grass. We all also know the need here because the current Tiger Stadium at least 3 times in the last 8 to 10 years has unfortunately been under 6 feet of water. This completely eliminates that issue. We also have then the ability to renovate and upgrade and add a baseball complex at Central. So what happens at North? Well, Central has a softball hub with a concession / storage / press box. North does not. This would allow us to add that building hub at our Cloverleaf. We would light the auxiliary field at North, and Panther Stadium would get turf. Both stadiums would be turfed. Again, that dramatically increases the use that our communities, that our school programs, dramatically increases the use of those facilities. What's it all going to cost? The junior high, the new wings, all the significant additions, about $78 million. We also would have around $4 million for furnishings, appurtenances. While you're at it and you have a bond issue, you look at some equipment that needs changed out, upgraded, or replaced. Same thing with furnishings, other minor renovations. We're making it very, very clear that extracurricular and co-curricular facility upgrades and renewals are clearly a part of it. It is about somewhere on the order of 7 to 8% of the total issue. It is not, in our opinion, a significant or massive part of the bond issue. We believe that we have enough kids involved. Again, the schools are the centerpiece. We have so many kids involved that taking this opportunity to upgrade our facilities for extra and co-curricular benefits so many kids. I'll rattle off just a few programs that use our fields: lacrosse, band, football, track and field, you name it. It helps to increase that utility. So that is my presentation. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to turn my light back on because this is driving me nuts, and then I am open to any questions.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Ryan? And this, just as a reminder, this was recorded, and we've got, we'll be able to go back and watch this at any point in time and answer, certainly reach out to Ryan or Dr. Briggs, who is joining us. So just, any questions from anyone that you have for Ryan?
Teresa, I have a question. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, go for it.
Thank you, Ryan. This is actually very helpful. I haven't done my research, and this is the first time really getting into the details, and this looks amazing. I have a couple boys in the district, so I'm very excited. Question I hear the most when I talk to friends, the biggest objection I hear is if we're building homes and we're increasing our taxpayer base so much, how does that not offset all the cost of the growth in our schools? And I don't know how to answer that question, so I think you're the right guy to ask.
The question has a couple of prongs. Number one, remember that each new home that comes in is going to come with at least one student. Mm-hmm. So it's akin to, yes, there's a new home And new homes allow for an increase in tax revenue, but it just keeps up with the added services that we know are going to accompany that home as we serve the students that come with it. So that's part of the answer is, yeah, if a new home was just coming in and ultimately there were no kids, that's straight revenue. But we know for every new home that comes in, it comes usually with at least one kid. And imagine a home that comes in with 3 to 4. We've actually calculated the break-even point of a new home in this district. Now, what I mean by break-even, if the value of a home is X, it spins off enough local tax revenue that we at least, keep water at nose level. All right. And the current value of homes that allow us to do that are almost exactly where we're building, right at the $300,000 mark. So assuming a $300,000 home comes with a kid, that home allows us to pay for the added services, so to speak, that go to that child. So that's answer one.
Mhm.
Answer two, as far as I can tell, is the added homes don't add ultimately, we're this past duplicate in 2020, we had about $30 million worth of new home construction. It does not afford even $30 million in new homes would not create enough revenue to pay off $85 million in debt. And that's the key is these projects are, imagine going out and getting a mortgage to your home. You normally have to borrow $300,000 or $400,000 to get a home. Well, the district doesn't have a spare $85 million laying around to do these projects. And even with these new homes, building up $85 million in reserves would probably never be a possibility. We've done a great job of budgeting and of wisely watching our operating reserves. And our operating reserves right now are about 100 days of cash. But 100 days of cash, even in and of itself, is only about $30 million. Pickerington Schools is about $140 million general fund entity, so to speak. And we have, just like you would in your businesses, in your homes, we have to keep 3 to 6 months of reserves to be sure that we can get through the tough times. Well, again, even at $30 million, if we spent every last penny, which we've been very, very sound with how we've tried to manage our resources, we don't have enough to do the projects that are proposed. The final piece, as new homes come into the district, it will allow for us, even though this is a 2.9 mil levy, a 2.9 mil levy will cost about $101 annually in new taxes per $100,000 of home value. 101 annually per $100,000 of home value. We state it that way, so if someone says, well, I think my home is worth $300,000, well, multiply by 3, 303. As new homes come online, we know if this bond issue passes, one of the first conversations we're going to do is talk with John Slater, our auditor. That 2.9 mils is like a maximum. When you go out to get a mortgage, your banker approves you for up to X. Well, we know we're approved and can collect up to 2.9 mils. But we absolutely will have conversations with our auditor, and we are working to structure our debt the way we issue it, because our projects will be phased. They'll take about 3 to 5 years. We will do everything we can and feel pretty confident that we're not even going to have to collect the full 2.9 mils. Now, I can't guarantee that. I can only say 2.9 is the absolute maximum, and we would work with our county auditor to recognize that new homes are coming into the district at the rate of around $25 to $30 million a year. And the thing is then that debt service millage is spread over a wider and bigger tax base. And that's where people in the public aren't totally wrong. That then allows for us to be more aggressive in rolling the millage rate back. Basic equation, tax rate times value equals taxes. Well, if values go up, and you only need a certain debt service over here for taxes to pay your debt, values go up mathematically. What can you do with the tax rate? Take it down. And that actually happens every year with any government entity. Most people think my home goes up by 20%, my taxes go up by 20%. And that's not accurate. As home values increase, voted levy rates decrease. And that's called House Bill 920. That happened in 1976. And it was a way of recognizing that just because home values increase doesn't mean you have more money coming into your pocket. So your taxes that you pay for property taxes shouldn't increase proportionately. And believe it or not, they're actually rolled back. So those are the three ways, maybe a little bit wordy, that I would answer it, but I would focus on the cost of the services for a new home generally is break even to the district, because we usually get a student. Even though we've wisely budgeted, we couldn't just simply, sit back and try to amass $85 million off of the new property. It would take 20 years. I mean, it sounds like a lot. I'd love to have $30 million in my account, but ultimately we don't get there in a reasonably quick fashion. And then the third piece, as we get more property, we can indeed roll back the millage that's required to be collected from our residents.
Thank you. That's extremely helpful. I will try to explain it that well when people ask that question.
Well, this is being recorded by both the district and the chamber. So just tell them to queue up wherever we are in the video at this point, and tell anyone in the community to give me a call.
Thank you. I do have one other very quick tactical question. When you mentioned the additional classrooms at Central and North, are those actual physical add-ons to the buildings, not trailers?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Permanent wings. 24 permanent classrooms at Central, 18 permanent classrooms at North. That will actually increase the capacity of both of those buildings to around 2,200 to 2,300 students.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, additional questions from the group. And yes, Ryan, anytime you have cash questions, he's the guy to go to. For sure. I have learned so much about district financials and understanding how it all works just in the short time that I've been in this position and in this community, probably more than I've ever learned from a school treasurer. So he knows his stuff for sure.
I wanted to share, if you don't mind, Teresa, I'll do this real quick, because if you will go to Pickerington's website, we just wanted to, Crystal's probably sitting back on, yes, Ryan. We at the top of our webpage at pickeringtonk12.oh.us, you can go straight to our bond page. A lot of information here, great videos by Dr. Briggs, great videos by several people in the community. All of the information about, and each one of these, it may not seem like there's much here, but each one of these explodes out into more information. The thing that's been coming up lately is folks have been asking about the enrollment study, and the enrollment study is also listed here. A lot of rich data here. One of the richest things that has come across that some people enjoy, do you see cooperative strategies? Is that on your screen?
Yep.
This is a neat study because some people say, where did you get all that data? Well, we have every subdivision in the district. For example, Ashley Creek goes to Violet, Harmon, Lakeview, Pickerington North. There's 63.99 net acres there. There is a net density of 2.05 homes per acre, is what that means. You can see the median year built, initial, last. You can see the median age. You can see pretty much the total assessed value per home. Here's the neat part. You can see how many students are K4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, K12, and then you can see the student yields. Why that's so powerful is we then take all of this data across every subdivision and we go backwards to show you this graph up here. If you look over here in the right-hand corner, you can see the age of every home on the tax duplicate in the district. We have some as old as 119 years. You can see at the bottom, and that's how, this is kind of the secret sauce to how these graphs over here get made. At the bottom, you can see the yield by price in aggregate. Because at the top, you also have the total value stratified, homes less than 50 grand, 50 to 100. So this is where I normally take people's eyes. Most homes that come into Pickerington right now are between 250 and 350,000. If I now scroll down and I look at homes between 1 and 6, between 1 and 6 years of age, look at the densities in this area of the graph right here. 1.35, 0.73, 0.75, 0.91, 1.15. This bears out. And you can see the aggregate at the bottom right here, 0.71, 0.72. This is where all of that data comes from. If there's a gray, it does not mean the home doesn't exist. Gray means that a home in that stratification doesn't exist that has a student in it. And all of those are zeros. Clearly they're in the calculation, but you can see then at the bottom what those densities are. And if you go out to the right, that's where you know that on average, homes that are 7 years of age, 0.85. Here's the sweet spot. Homes at about 5 and 6 years of age, 1.15 and 0.81. This bears out. We get a new home, we get a new student.
Additional questions, comments, thoughts, anybody? Dr. Briggs, I know you joined us a little bit late, but you can, live, eat, sleep, breathe this all day, every day for the last 2 years. So any additional comments that you would like to share?
I just want, first of all, Teresa, thanks for allowing Ryan and I to share the information with you this morning. And Ryan by far is the best treasurer in the state of Ohio. I think if you look at the overall ask that we're asking our community, we think it's a great package. 2.9 mils for everything that we're going to impact from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. We feel like we touch every student in our school district in some positive way. And there's not a lot of levies or bond issues that could say that. And I think that's the most important part too. And obviously Ryan hit it, said the best. We're a destination district. Our growth is a good thing. It's a positive thing and we have to embrace it. But also comes challenges. And that's why we have to come back to our community and ask for the additional ask. And I wish we funded schools differently in the state of Ohio, but unfortunately this is what we're dealt, the hand we're dealt, and we have to come back and ask our community to support us. And I think we are such a unique school district. We are so diverse. And as Ryan said, it's such an interesting thing when you look at our school district and the new developments going in and the housing and my property as well. When I moved in, it's such a positive thing to see your house value go up instead of going down like it is in a lot of communities. And that's such I think a credit to not only our community, but our school system. And I hope that the young families that are moving in our school district and are joining the chamber and participating in those things are choosing Pickerington because of the schools. And it's such a unique thing. But again, I just want to say the story that we have to tell is this. As Ryan said, 2.9 mils for everything that we're looking at, a new school building, all the renovations to the high school, addressing the Welcome Center, addressing our growth at our elementary levels, realigning our middle school students back to a feeder pattern where they should be, converting Ridgeview into a K-6 facility and in creating that additional middle school. And by the way, addressing our extracurricular needs as well, and being able to take care of those needs that we came back for on the ballot and we weren't real successful for. This is all included in that for 2.9 mils, and that's almost unheard of. We have not asked for new money especially for the building part for 14 years, and we're the 15th largest school district in the state of Ohio. And that is a great story to tell to our community and to our taxpayers. And And hopefully that's the message we're getting out, is that we've been very frugal is a good term. But we've been very conscious on how we spend our taxpayers' dollars. And Ryan's office has done a great job of telling the story. I know my head spins every time I talk to him, and I watched this today, and I've seen it 1,000 times, and yet I'm still amazed at the information and the data that we have available to us. And so thank you again just for allowing us to be here. Again, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late getting on, but we appreciate the opportunity to get in front of as many people as we can to tell our story. And hopefully people will show up May 4th. We need our parents to show up May 4th. We know that's going to be a critical need for our success, is if we can get our parents to the polls. So thanks again, Teresa, and everyone for allowing us to be here. And Ryan, thanks for the information. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you sharing. I know, obviously we have been down this road and certainly want to continue to support the schools and this opportunity for growth. I mean, you're right. People come to this community more often than not for our school system, and that's something to be very proud of. So I just want to say thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Dr. Briggs or Ryan? Awesome. Well, this is being recorded, so we will share this with our entire membership, and also there's quite a few folks who registered, but obviously we're not on the call, so I'll send this to them as well. But we'll push this information out as much as we can over the coming weeks and encourage people to get out to those polls and get their voting done. So we just want to say thank you both, and hopefully you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.